Welcome to the Simply Luxurious Kitchen, inspired by travels to France, as well as to other delicious excursions around the globe. While going about my everyday life in Bend. Join me as I share seasonal fare to elevate the everyday meal. And most importantly, discover how to enjoy stepping into your kitchen. Let's get started. Welcome to my kitchen. I'm Shannon Abels and welcome to the Simply Luxurious Kitchen. Today we're going to be making a French dessert. We're going to be making a Savarin. This is a traditional French recipe, and all it basically is a rum pound cake or an alcohol infused pound cake. You get to choose the liqueur that you infuse it with, which is what I love. Now, I had this recipe the first time when I had the opportunity to go to San Francisco this past summer and go to a restaurant that was beyond my dreams that I would ever have the opportunity to go. But I did finally get the opportunity to go to Chez Panisse in Berkeley. And as I spoke about in an earlier episode, we had a wonderful trip, and this particular meal was a memory I'll never forget. And I'll share a video of that later in our episode. But the Savarin is a cake that is a yeast cake, so it's not your typical cake. You are going to put yeast in it, and that's how we're going to start our recipe. So we want to first just get the yeast put in with 1/4 cup of warm water. So 1/4 cup of warm water. And the yeast, you actually want more than the typical packet. You want 1 tablespoon and 1/2 of a tablespoon. So mix that up just so it's incorporated, and you're just going to wait until that gets nice and softly bubbly. It's not going to get uber bubbly, but you want it to start feeding. You want it to start eating. I know there's no sugar in here because typically you put sugar in here. We will be putting sugar in it soon. So just set that aside once it's all incorporated. And as you can see, it's already starting to bubble up, which is perfect. We're going to do something with that in a second. Now what we want to do is put 8 eggs in this bowl. So I'm going to get my eggs out of the refrigerator. So it's already starting to bubble, which is great. Like I said, it doesn't take that much time at all. Just about, it almost starts immediately as soon as you put the water in it. So 1 minute it's done. But first we need to get, before we do anything with that, we want to put 8 eggs into this bowl gently, not opening, not cracking them, shell on, so don't do anything. Just put 8 eggs right in here. We're going to warm them up. So put 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. We're going to put them under hot water and just leave them in the sink so that they get warmed up. Okay, so just make sure that they're entirely covered. Leave them there while we do our next step. So what we're going to do now is we're going to warm up the sugar, the milk, some salt, and a little bit of vanilla bean. So I have 1/2 cup minus a tablespoon of whole milk. Put that right in here. Turn that on low. I want about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay. 2 tablespoons of sugar. And we just want to put this on low heat until the sugar is incorporated. So give it a whisk. Let that warm up. Okay? While that's doing its thing, done with the yeast, I need a vanilla bean. So, vanilla bean, you don't need the whole thing, but you do need 1 to get started. So we want about 1 inch. So about an inch of this, and I like to do a little bit more than an inch. Okay, now you're going to eventually put the pod in there, but first you want to slice it open. Don't go all the way through. You're just going halfway through so you can open up the pod. This is the magical part. And I didn't do that, slice that one through enough. There we go. Good, awesome. So we have the seeds all right in there, and we're going to scrape them out. Take the back of whatever knife you're using, scrape them in there. Ooh, look at that, lovely, lovely seeds. Poop, poop, poop. All right in, poof. You could even just use your finger. There's no reason not to use your hands. Use the back of your fingernail and just push all those seeds out. Don't forget the ones up on the top of it. Beautiful. And you're going to put the pot in there for now, so even if you don't get everything off, it's fine. Put the rest back in, and we'll use you guys later for another recipe. All right, so we're just waiting for this to melt and dissolve. This is a very simple step. Just wait about 5 minutes and it'll be ready to go. But again, I'm on low heat, about 3 out of 10, and just waiting for that to dissolve. While we're waiting for it to dissolve, I've already done the next step. We want to put 3 cups and 3/4 cups, so 3 3/4 cups of flour into our mixing bowl that's going to be attached here in a second. Now what I've just done is made a well in this because we're eventually going to put all the liquid right there. Whoop, a little dirty. And this will all eventually get in there. This is starting to bubble. That's perfect. Now the story of this cake has to do in a way with why this looks the way it looks. This is called a Savarin ring or bundt pan or cake pan. So if you ever see one like this, there's ones that are larger than this, smaller than this. I have mini ones back here. And if you see a round cake pan like this that has soft rounded edges, so no bundt pan, then that's a Savarin cake pan. And it's named after Jean-Anthony Brillant Savarin. And his last name is hyphenated, so he has 2 last names, and that's the interesting part of the story. So the man actually didn't make this recipe. The Julien brothers made this recipe. They were Pistachios in Paris in 1848, so mid-1800s, mid-19th century. They actually made the recipe in Paris, but they named it in honor of this man. And the reason the guy, Brillant Savarin, had the last name hyphenated is because, I love this part of the story, his aunt promised to give him her entire estate. All of her inheritance would be given to him on one condition. He took her name, and so he did. He took her name, hyphenated Brillant dash Savarin, S-A-V-A-R-I-N, and that's where the name came from. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He was known for his politics, but he actually during the Revolution escaped, went to Switzerland and eventually the United States, lived in Boston and the Upper East Coast for quite some time, and then he came back to France, specifically Paris, and was a judge, and then eventually did die in Paris. But and the other part of him, oh good, it's done. That's kind of interesting, is he was actually an advocate for a low-carb diet. So this cake may not have been his choice at all, because he was someone who actually, through studies in science and whatnot, found that a low-carb diet for him would be healthier. But he is also the man behind a quote that you might know: "Tell me what you eat and I'll tell you what you are." That quote originates from the man behind this recipe. So he loved his food. He loved his food. So that's why they gave homage to him in this cake pan and this recipe. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna feed that yeast a little of this flour. So we're just gonna take about 1/4 cup of flour. This does not need to be measured because eventually it'll all get back into here, but we're just gonna feed this yeast. Do it a little bit at a time. So 1/8 of a cup first. You just want to feed it enough so that it's a soft dough. And the first time I did this recipe, I fed it far too much and it didn't work. So it's not going to look like anything you want to roll out. This is not the point. The point is just to feed the yeast. Okay? So we're just making a very soft dough. It's okay if it's a little lumpy initially. I probably should have just used a spatula. That's okay. I'm gonna put a little bit more in because you want it to double in size and get a little bit bubbly. So not quite 1/4 of a cup, but put it back in if you didn't use it all. Okay, again, just making a soft dough, feeding it, getting it all incorporated. Perfect. We're gonna let that just sit and wait till it gets about half the size and bubbles. So while we're waiting for that to rise, where does this recipe come from? Well, as I mentioned, I had this cake for the first time when I went to San Francisco this summer. So it took me over 40 years to actually eat and enjoy this recipe. I'll show a picture of it here that we enjoyed in San Francisco. And as you can see, it's a cake that can take on whatever you want it to take on. So what we're going to be doing is adding fresh berries, since it's summertime that I'm taping this, early August. But you can add whatever fruit that you enjoy, and that's in season. You can also infuse it with liqueur, the liqueur that you enjoy. We're going to use kirsch today, but I've used pear liqueur. Some people love orange liqueur. So it really is up to you and what you enjoy. Now, this recipe, I'm very excited about this recipe. So Chez Panisse, as you guys probably already know, is a famed restaurant that once held a Michelin star in Berkeley, California. It opened in 1971 and is still going strong, and it was spearheaded by the well-known expert Alice Waters. She is someone who believes in eating seasonally and from farm to table. What I love about her place, well, there's many things, is that every day, every single day, and they serve meals from Monday to Saturday, it's a different menu. They plan the menu about a month in advance. The chefs all sit down. I asked the waiters all these questions when I was there. They sit down about a month in advance and they plan out their menu, and then they look at it again about a week prior to double check to make sure they can get all those ingredients. Sometimes it obviously does change, but for the most part, it's a constant revolving menu. And what I love about that concept is that you're letting the food do the work. If you have fantastic quality ingredients, you don't have to do much to that. And what you're going to see here is this cake is actually very simple. We're just going to put it into a form that is appetizing, but the food itself, the fruit, the liqueur, the combination of all these dry ingredients with a few liquid ingredients is what's going to make this dish. And so I didn't make up this recipe. I went to find the recipe from that restaurant. There are a handful of cookbooks that Alice Waters has put out that were inspired and are inspired by her restaurant Chez Panisse, and this is the dessert cookbook that I have. I'm using their recipes. So the pastry chef that worked there through the mid-1990s shared this recipe, and they clearly are still using it today. I'm sure they've made some tweaks as pastry chefs do to put their own signature on it. I will be putting my own signature on this one, but by no means is this my recipe. But it is one that I want to share with you because it was hard to find. And hopefully now you can say, oh, I have a new idea. Instead of a bundt cake, or I have a different idea instead of a pound cake or strawberry shortcake. It's just something different to add a little something extra to your next dinner party or your next family gathering or just the middle of the week, because these will be something you could use or serve a day later if you'd like. All right, so this is getting close to done, and as soon as it's doubled, we'll get back into this and make the dough. All right, so I just took this out of my oven. Now, why did I put it in my oven? Well, this is not a proofing oven, as you probably already imagined. Most of us don't have proofing ovens, but what I do is to warm it up, because this is kind of cold in the house right now, is I turn my oven to its lowest temp, which from this oven is 100 degrees, and then I turn it off. And a proofing oven is just over 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So about 95 to 82. I mean, everyone's ovens are gonna be a little different. But the goal is to be just above 80 degrees. And so that's how I have figured out to work with this oven that I have. And anyway, so it's in about 10 minutes time, that's it. It has doubled in size, as you can see there, as you can see there. So what we do with this is perfect. We're going to now take our eggs, so we're going to drain them. I'm going to use this here later. I'm going to put these eggs into this cup. Whoops. Make sure those shells get out of there. There we go. So 8 eggs. They should be warm now. That was the purpose of putting them in hot water. This water is now lukewarm. Okay, so even if you have warm room temperature eggs, just stick them under hot water. It's going to make it all come together to make a smooth batter here in a second. You do not need to mix that up. What you do need to do is put a wire whisk in your mixer. I thought initially when I did this recipe the first time, I was like, oh no, I'm making dough. I should put my dough gadget on. Don't put the dough gadget. You'll be standing here for hours and hours unnecessarily. This is a very thin or fine dough. So we're going to put the 8 eggs into the well. Now we're going to put this warm mixture in there, but we want to make sure the vanilla bean comes out. So you can either just take it out and save it, because you could put it into sugars. So you can do all sorts of things to it. Pour that in there. Whoop. Beautiful. And the yeast. So now, it's so full. I love it. It's very happy right now. We're going to pour this right in there. And this is the magic ingredient that makes it all look wonderfully full and happy. Okay, get that on there. Now we're just going to mix it until it's smooth, and it will get really smooth, so we do need to give it time to do that. It takes about 5 minutes. I'm going to put it on medium speed. Okay, we now have smooth batter, and that's exactly what we want. And you might be thinking, well, how is that going to be yeasted dough that's going to be rising? Oh, it will rise. That's the magical part about this. And this is the trick that Lindsay Reminoff-Scher, who was the pastry chef for Chez Panisse, says you could incorporate our next step into the batter, but it actually is going to slow the rising process down. So we want this to double in size. This is where we are right now. We're actually going to put 1.5 cups of unsalted butter in here, and that's going to be incorporated. Now, if we incorporated that butter before we asked it to rise, it would take longer to rise. And we want to shorten that rising time down, and the cake is going to be just as delicious. And so what we're going to do, and this is what she suggests in her recipe, and I highly recommend it, is we're going to put the butter on top. We're going to slice it. So this is 1.5 cups of unsalted butter. We're just going to slice it into about 1 inch or 3/4 of an inch wide, and place it right on top. And you may think, well, that is just weird. It will rise. It will rise. It is strong. That yeast is muscles. It'll be just fine. So we're going to slice these up and put them on top. I'm going to slice a bunch up and put them all on top together. And part of this, what helps this when we do this, is that it brings the butter to the same temperature as the yeast, which makes it really easy to incorporate. And otherwise, if your butter, for example, maybe it's not out on the counter, so it's not room temperature, maybe it's frozen, it's hard to incorporate frozen butter into dough. And I can attest that I have put frozen butter on top, and that thing has risen no problem in 30 to 40 minutes and been easily incorporated because it was all the same temperature. So this just really saves you a lot of time. And it does not be precise 1 inch, 3/4 inches at all. And they don't have to be neatly arranged. So we're just making sure they come to the same temperature as the dough. That is it. And after it rises, we mix it all up and we pipe it into our pans and let that rise and bake it, and voila, we have our dessert. This reminds me a little bit of making brioche, because brioche involves a lot of eggs and a lot of butter. But the main difference is it's not infused with alcohol. I'm going to cover this. I'm going to heat my oven up to 100 degrees, which is basically already there because it just had the other in it. So while that heats up, I'm going to put a cover on it. See, it's already there. It's already at 100 degrees. So we'll turn that off by the time we put this in there. Okay. This is going to go into a proofing oven. In your oven, it'll take about 30 minutes to 40 minutes, but just double in size. You want it to double in size. All right. While this is rising, we're going to make the garnishes, the delicious little extras that really make this dish special, this dessert special. So what we're going to do is make some caramel. Have our saucepan here. I'm going to put this up to medium-high heat. Put a half a cup of sugar in here and melt it down so it becomes caramel. That's as easiest thing in the world to do. You know, I never knew how they made caramel for quite some time. And I was doing a recipe a couple years ago, and they, you know, instructed that you melt down the sugar and then let it caramelize, let it turn to a certain color of brown that you want it. And I was like, that's how you make caramel? No way. Simple and fun. Just have to be careful, you don't want to burn yourself. And that's why I like this saucier pan. It has a spout so that when I do eventually pour it where I need to pour it, it all goes in the direct and a very specific direction. But you can use a regular saucepan, no problem. I've used a saucepan for years. So what are we doing with this? We are going to make candied pistachios. Yes. So I already picked up some pistachios that are already dry roasted. They're unsalted. If you do have pistachios and they're already in their shell, just take them out of their shell, roast them, and then you're right where we are now. So I'm going to put, it's up to you how much. I'm going to put about a half a cup. So a half a cup here, a half a cup there. We're not going to put a lot of candied pistachios on the dessert, but the ones we do, they are going to make a big difference. So that's all ready. Let's taste one. Why not? Very good. Good. All right. So this is on medium-high heat. I want a spatula, and it's going to take some time. So just be patient, about 7 to 8 minutes. But we want to get this to a nice amber brown color. So not too dark, but not light like sunshine or sun setting or anyway, you want it medium. You want it medium brown, so that amber color, and I'll show you when we get to that point. Okay. Now sometimes your handle might get hot depending on what kind of pan you have, so just be careful. Sometimes these pans have wooden extra holders, and that's exactly why. So I don't have one yet, but I will eventually, I'm sure. You do want to be on top of it though, stirring. The first part you're like, oh, it's not doing anything, but eventually all of a sudden you're going to see it start melting, and you're like, oh, that's what starts to happen. So you just want to be present. You want to be present. Keep melt. What I like to do is put the back of the spatula and just push that sugar against the bottom of the pan, and you see it start to melt. And it's gentle and it's gradual. You don't have to be gentle, but it's gradual. But it's happening, and all of a sudden it'll just go, whoosh, it'll start melting just lickety split, which is kind of fun to watch. It's kind of like if you ever made when you were a kid, it's gloop or glop. I'm not exactly sure of the name. Everyone has a different name for it. But it was just kind of fun to play with. And granted, don't touch this, don't do that. But it kind of just has a fun immediate transformation into this liquefied, but still somewhat solid structure, because it will harden very quickly, as we know, when it's not hot. That's why the pistachios are right there, ready to be dressed. While I'm waiting for this to melt, I'd love for you to see what my meal was like when I went to Chez Panisse, and I actually took my mom with me, and we had a lovely dinner. Here is you'll see every single course, you'll see the restaurant inside and out, and maybe whet your appetite a little bit, but I promise you the final dessert that you see there, the dessert you'll see there, is what we're gonna make, and you'll be able to make too. getting close to what we need, but we need to get it entirely smooth and then the right color that we want. But it's going to go fast now, so this is when you need to be here for the entire time. Even if you didn't step away before, you should definitely stay put now. And it's fun. It's like magic. But it's real. It's delicious. And this is just going to give that nice little extra crunch on top of the cake that is going to be moist and delicious. So you want all those different textures to be part of your dessert, which makes it extraordinary. Yeah. Oh, look at it. Look at it. Be a little thicker. Make sure all the goodies on my spoon are cooked off too. I tend to get sugar on the top of the spoon and it doesn't get cooked. So now it's hot. Stove is off. Everything is smooth. You don't want it to burn. And you immediately just pour it on top of your pistachios. Yeah. Hot pan, so be very careful. Yes. I probably could have put more pistachios down. So maybe about 3/4 of a cup. But that'll be perfect. So we're gonna let this cool for about 15-20 minutes, and then we'll break it up and chop it up, and it'll be ready to go. So I'm gonna get rid of this pan before just in case I hit myself. I don't want to get burned. Yeah, it's hot. All right, let's get rid of our pistachios, and the next thing we're gonna make is the fruit puree. That's going to be more of the garnish. We're going to take any kind of jam that you like. I chose raspberry preserves. All right, so what I have got here is raspberry preserves. You can use any kind of jam you want. I like to have it look red on the plate, as we saw there in the picture. That's part of the aesthetics. You can do whatever one you want, whatever jam you'd like. We're also going to add a little bit of the liqueur that's going to be in the cake, and we're going to put kirsch, cherry infused liqueur, into the cake. So we're going to put a little bit of that into this. So what we need to do, I'm going to take about 1/4 of a cup. This is heated up. About 1/3 of a cup. That's okay. I'll put about medium-low heat. Want about a tablespoon, no more. This is just going to liquefy it a little bit, make it a little easier to put on the plate. Perfect. So now we're just going to let it evaporate into the jam and become liquefied. Ooh, I smell it. It smells so good. A little fruity. Perfect. And the part of the reason I want preserves instead of jam is I don't want whole fruit in here. If I did have whole fruit, you could use, which you actually can, you put it into a food processor and you just thin it out. You just want to make it easy to put on the plate. Perfect, perfect. So nice and smooth. This is all ready to go. Just taste it just to see. That's good. And it just depends on what you want, what flavor you want. The recipe actually calls for apricot jam, so it depends on what you want to put on. I've just changed it for my liking. Bum, bum, bum. Perfect. Now we're going to make the third and final garnish. We're going to take our mixing bowl, and I want to put it on this, and we're going to make Chantilly cream. Chantilly cream, French Chantilly cream sounds really, really fancy. It is not, but it is lovely and delicious, and all it is a cup of heavy cream, a tablespoon of sugar, and a teaspoon of vanilla. That is it. Okay, so let's put a cup of cream, heavy cream. If you want more, because you're making, this recipe, by the way, makes 2 bundt cakes, or 8 of those medium-sized Savarin pans. So if you are making 8 Savarin pans, you might want to put 2 cups in here. I don't need 2 cups, so I'm only making 1 cup. And then we need a tablespoon, whoops, tablespoon of sugar, teaspoon of vanilla. We take it over here, and we get a whipping cream. A hand mixer, or you can totally do this on your own. I have done that many, many times. I just recently got a hand mixer, and I'm going to use it because it's awesome. But if you want a great arm workout, or you don't have one of these, don't worry. In 5 minutes, and it will take 5 to 7 minutes, you can have this all whipped up. You just need to get it all the way to soft peaks. So here we go. I'll turn on some French music for you. You can listen to that instead of the noisy whir of the hand mixer. Here we go. We have definitely got whoop, so hard, soft peaks. Look at that. Whoop. Yep. Doesn't come out. Perfect. So now, this obviously, the cake is not ready yet. Actually, I'm going to leave these in here because I might want to mix it up in a minute or later. We're going to put this in the refrigerator, and it will stay exactly this consistency until we're ready to use it and serve our dessert. So you can make this right on the spot, just like this, or you can make it ahead and stick it in the fridge for another day if you really want to. All right, one other thing we can make while we're waiting is I already have a bunch of strawberries that I haven't used and I need to use, and I have some more fresh strawberries for topping. So I'm just going to slice them up into small, tiny pieces, diced, finely diced. Now you can use any fresh berry you want. As you can see from when we went to the restaurant, and there was raspberries on there as well. And so I just happened to go to the market, and they didn't have any more raspberries, but they had a lot of strawberries, and so I picked up some strawberries. So it's really up to you and what you prefer for your fruit topping. If you want fruit topping, maybe you don't want fruit topping, that's fine too. And I do, I like them really small, delicate. Yeah. All right, so what I'm gonna do is get ready on the stove, but not turn on and warm up yet. I'm gonna make the sugar water, basically, that's infused with kirsch, that's going to be drizzled into these cakes once they eventually come out of the oven. But I just want to show you what the ingredients are. So I have 2 cups of water. Then I have 1 cup of sugar. This is a half a cup. That's a cup. And then I want 1/3 of a cup, excuse me, 3/4 of a cup of kirsch. You can do less or more depending on what or how intense you want the flavor, obviously. Play with that. And when we get close to pulling these out of the oven, we don't even have them in the oven yet, I'll turn that on, dissolve the sugar, and it'll be all ready to ladle onto the cakes. We're almost done with the dough coming to half or double its size, and as soon as those come out, we'll pipe them up and let them rise again. All right, this is about ready to come out, but this pistachios in caramel has hardened. Look at that, perfect. So I'm just gonna break it up, put it right in here. Oh, fine pistachios. Just a rough break. Put the rest of them in here. Now we don't want them super fine, but we do want them to be smaller and a little bit smaller than the actual pistachio itself. So I'll pulse it. Perfect. all of the garnishes are ready. Put this in a, there's my 30 minutes for the dough. We'll check that in just a second. I'm gonna put these in a ramekin so they're ready to go. Oh, yum. Let's give one a try. So you do have different sizes. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Crunchy, sweet, nutty. Yeah, perfect. Now if you wanted salty on there, you can do that too. But since it's a sweet dish, I'm not doing that. Okay, let's get the dough out. So I don't know if you can see it or not, but it is double in size. The butter is definitely softened, and we're gonna just mix it right back up. I'm gonna mix it up over here, and then we're gonna put it into our dough, make it into a dough, and then pipe it into our pans. So let's mix this back up. And it really is blending together so much easier with the butter now that it's at room temperature. And you do want it to be fully incorporated, the butter to be fully incorporated. So that's why don't just get it just somewhat blended. Make sure, as you're going to see here from this picture, nice and neat. All right, so now my next trick is how to get this into a piping bag as one person, because it's a little easier when you have two people. So I have the dough. The pans are already stick-free. Blanking on my word here. But anyway, they're going to pop right out, no problem. That's what these pans are for. I actually picked these up in Paris, but you can pick them up online. You can pick them up probably in your nearby specialty food store, or just ask them to order Savarin pans. And again, there are large sizes, there are medium sizes, and there are small sizes. We're going to do a little bit of both. You could do it without anything. So if you don't have any of these, that's fine. I've actually done that, but for me, it comes out too fast. So I've just chosen one of the heads that works. Unscrew, put the big one inside, get in there. I don't cook and bake very often, but when I do, I use these for meringues, things like that, which is kind of nice. And then just screw it on. Okay, so now we are just going to let that sit in there like that. And we're going to put as much as we want to in the piping pan. You don't need to put it all in at once. Like I said, it won't fit. But if you have a big one, it might. And what I love about this dough is it kind of breaks off very nicely. It's not super runny because it does have that yeast component in it. So, before it's ready to rock and roll, and close this. And you only want it no more than half full as far as height, because it's going to raise one more time and it's going to get huge. So I actually err on the side of not enough, because okay, these are actually huge serving sizes. You could put 2 people, 3 people on these. These are perfect individual sizes. But as you see in my pictures when I had the restaurant dessert, it's really in between these two. So just play with the size, but it will rise. So. I like the fine tip because I can go a little bit at a time and decide exactly how much. I have made the mistake of, like I said, not using the tip at all. And I just got too much too quickly. So, small, I don't even need that. I don't need that much. Come back to me. Making a mess here. Big mess, but it really is pretty pliable, which I love about this. And we'll do one more. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of dough left. I could easily put that into a bundt pan and make one big one. So this really does serve a lot of people. So you can absolutely cut this recipe in half. So now we're going to proof it again. for about 20, 30, sometimes 40 minutes, depending on how hot your oven is. So now I'm just going to put these in the oven, or the proofing oven, not to bake, proofing oven, or someplace really warm in the house between 80 and 95 degrees, and they will increase in size, twice the size of what you see here. Let's put these into the proofing oven, or the makeshift proofing oven. I'm going to check them at 20, see how high they are, and then if I need more time, I'll put them in for longer. So I'll see you in about 20 minutes. All right, so all right, just be very careful when you take it out. These have risen about twice the size of what they were. That's what we want. Now we're increasing the oven to 350, and we're going to bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes. The key with taking it out of the oven is not to lose the air, so be very gentle when you take it out. You don't want it is going to decrease a bit, obviously, but hopefully not a lot. This is perfect. We're waiting for the oven to reach temperature, and then we'll put it back in, bake it for 20 to 25 minutes, and then we're basically done. We just have to add that lovely sugar water that's infused with kirsch, garnish it, and voila. I'll see you in 20 minutes. Now we just want to bring it to a boil. And you just make this right before the cakes are going to come out. You do want it slightly warm as you put it into the cake, so the cake absorbs it even better. It's going to do it fairly quickly. So now it's boiling. We're going to turn off the heat, take it off the heat, wait for it to cool just a little bit, and then we'll add the kirsch to it. All right, so this has cooled down a little bit, so we're going to add the kirsch to this. And this is all ready to ladle or pour gently and slowly over each of the cakes when they come out of the oven. All right, so what I'm going to do now is take out the small ones because they don't need to cook as long. So I'm just going to take them, put them up here. Other ones are almost done. Now we just want to take these and flip them over. They're going to pop right out. They're already out. I'll show you here. Let me get my hot pad away. Let me get a flipper. Easiest thing to do. Look at that. Whoop! Don't let it hit it, Shannon. These are going to, as you can see, these are tiny. That is good. That is what we want. The other size will be exactly what we want. And what we have here is hot pans. So now we want to flip them over once we get them over here. Ooh. See, it already popped out. Look at that. Whoa. Okay. Flip. Come on out. I know you want to. There we go. Perfect. This is a hot pan, so I'm going to move this over here. Now, this is not a hot pan. That's the good news. All right, now this is where I'm going to use my hot pad. Actually, I'm going to use this. Watch out, Bear. Watch out, bears. Okay. I'm going to get my ladle, and there's a reason why we want this on an edged pan, because we're going to ladle liquid into this, and the liquid's going to leak around, and we don't want to run it off. So, you just want to put, oh shoot, you know what? I need to do one more thing. Now, what I should have done before I flipped them over, we can do it now, don't worry, is we want to prick them with a fork. We want to leave the top really soft and smooth, but we want to leave the bottom with the ability to absorb liquid. So just pierce about 4 or 5 times, because this will be sitting in the liquid directly, and it will keep absorbing the liquid, which is what we want. We're going to ladle it on top, but there'll be more. There we go. Now we can flip them back over. Whoop, doop, doop, and put the big ones in front. You can see those. Now we can start ladling. And you can ladle right immediately after they come out of the oven. In fact, you should, because they're warm. There we go. Before everything gets hard and set, because this is part of the flavor. You smell the fruit and the liqueur and the drizzle. And it really is up to you how much more you want. These are pretty soaked through. Now, while the plate, or while those are soaking the liquid up, we're going to prepare the dish. Now, we've warmed this back up a little bit because we made it quite a while ago, about an hour ago. So this is nice and easy and smooth to put on the plate. So what we do, let's get a spoon. You need a lot of this, but you're going to lay it on the plate and make a little swoosh. Now you can put more, it's up to you. Now these are about set. Ooh, see, they become so much moister. Ah, I love that about these. We're gonna put this little guy on there. Now again, mine are gonna look like my household made them. I do not have years of experience with this, but I do know the flavor combinations, and this is going to taste delicious. Okay, I'm going to put it right in the center. Okay, swirl it up. Perfect. We're going to add a little strawberries. A little on the side, so you can use it a little bit later. Perfect. And a little bit of crumble. I just want to get some big, some small pieces. And this is really like peanut brittle, but with pistachios. And there you have the dessert. Savarin. All right, so we have a French classic dessert, a little bit of espresso, and a perfect way to enjoy summer, enjoy the fresh seasonal berries, enjoy these cakes. What I love about these cakes, they can be made a day ahead of time. I've had them because often when I've been making this recipe, I've had many of them, and so I've had them for a couple days. The extra ingredients, the garnishes, can be made the day of and just top them when you're ready to enjoy the cake. The cake does not have to be made on the same day, but as you can see, it's not hard to make. It just takes 2 rises, and that's it. So let's try a bite. So moist. Did you see that drop in there? Oh yeah. Get a little of the sauce, get a little of the cream. The crunch is perfect with the softness of that cake. And oh my goodness, I gotta have more. What doesn't appear immediately when the cake comes out of the oven is that it's going to be tender, it's going to be soft. It looks like dough, it looks like a donut. But if you infuse it with that liqueur, and there's not too much, you don't taste it as alcohol, it just tastes as nice, lovely, sweet flavoring. This is a bundt cake or a strawberry shortcake taken to the next level, the French level maybe. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoy your day, enjoy your food, and enjoy stepping into your kitchen. Bonne journée.